has changed the most about your parenting style and within your family dynamic? Like, what's changed the most? Because you have experience with having a blended family and being a single parent. These are two of the things that.
This is what's changed the most. You live, you learn. Divorce will teach you a lot. It will strip you of a lot. But it's also, I look at life, and I always use metaphors as seasons. So you got winter, you got spring, you got summer, you got fall. All right? So that's the same way sometimes a marriage is. All right? So when the winter phase came in my marriage, winter is what? Barren. There's nothing there. There's no food you gotta get. If you don't have anything stored up, it dies. So because there was nothing stored up, guess what? It died. So that death brought about a change within myself. So I had to learn how to sit down here and navigate through those other parts of life. And it also brought me and taught me, had me reflect on the things that I did not do right. All right, when you talk about a blended families they're not difficult if you're willing to set yourself aside. All right, you got to put yourself aside. A lot of times the mistakes that I made in my blended family was I tried to do everything based off of the way I was raised. And sometimes you can't do that because you got two people from two different worlds that understand parenting comes from two different ways. And you get locked in on, this is the way I saw it done, and it's the way it gotta be. And then you got the other person saying from their perspective, this is the way I saw it, this is the way it's gotta be. And in the meantime, you have that child sitting there, and they're used to things a certain way, and you like, nah, it's gonna go my way, it ain't gonna go no way at all. And again, I had to learn that I had to compromise. I had to be willing to sit down and understand from both perspectives how to sit down there and do what's best for that family. And again, I made a lot of mistakes with mine. I didn't do things probably the right way. I didn't sit down there and open up as much as I should or take understanding. One thing I learned also from blended families is stepchild or your child, children gonna be children. They gonna do something, they gonna be disrespectful, they gonna say certain things, and that's just part of growing. But I didn't understand that. But the older Mark can sit back and say, okay, now I understand this. Because that same child that I had at 16, when Marcus became 16, he did the same thing. Well, Dad, I'm a man now. You can't tell me this. Hold on, bro. But again, it took for me to go through it to understand it. So again, it brought a different perspective on me now, because now I'm able to, when I do have the opportunity to get married again and we have a blended family, is to have more patience and understanding that we are two different people that have two different outlooks and has been raised two different ways. So our parenting styles won't be the same. No matter how much you try, it will not be the same. But you have to be able to be, number one, communicate, and number two, be willing to compromise. All right? And you also make sure you have to be able to adjust to that kid, because kids don't understand. They just know they want their way. And you have to be able to be understanding and mindful. And remember, I was telling my daughters when we were driving here, one of the biggest things I try to remember is when I was that kid's age. And we forget sometimes, because we're in that parent mode. We like, nah, no, you gonna do it this way, else I'm gonna whip you. But it's not about us. We have to think about how we were at their age, and we forget sometimes.
Yeah. One word answer for the first two questions. What is your most notable flaw?
Options. Options. At my age, options is about the most notable flaw. Too many, that's bad.
Yeah.
So options.
My
Too
dude
many
said,
options.
So pretty much what you're trying to say is you've been to Baskin Robbins and you know that there's more than 31 flavors.
More than 31 flavors. You cannot give a man too many options. Narrow it down.
Yeah.
Options. The
Where you
flaws. Where I learned the flaws from?
Both. But run the flaws.
First of all, let me just say this. I'm a football coach and I'm a teacher. So I learned the flaws of options dealing with a whole bunch of single parents, single mothers, and there's nothing but options. It's a beautiful world when you have options. I can't stress that enough. But that's the downfall. And I know I'm being humorous, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Anybody that's in our field that does what we do, you take time, you have understanding, and you just use patience and wisdom with dealing with kids. That's the biggest thing that a lot of single black women look for. So again, that right there is just a recipe of disaster. Disaster. It used to be good, but it's a disaster now.
To get off track. Real quick, any advice to young men or young women that want to follow in a path similar to yours?
Find you a mentor. Find you somebody who you can actually sit down with. You can talk to about certain things. And a lot of times, as a father, I had to realize that I probably wasn't the best mentor for my son at that point. You have to find somebody that you can open up with, that's going to give you that dialogue that you need to help secure and just kind of propel you on that right track. Because a lot of times what our kids get from us is they get that, I heard this from Brother Brown, that Charlie Brown syndrome, where all they hear is wham, 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 wham. And there's nothing that they get from it. But again, I would tell them, find you a mentor. Find you somebody that's not your age, because your age will give you all the wrong answers. But you need to find somebody that can actually instill and help you, that you can reach out to, that's going to give you that same value, but from a different perspective. Because your perspective is totally skewed on what you think and what you know. You have no clue at, like Mama say Marcus at 21, what life is really about to be about. So you need to have somebody that you can find, that you can talk to, whether it's a cousin, uncle, just anybody outside of your dad, your mom, that's gonna give you a different perspective. So yeah.
Well, like that's all the questions.